Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live Argentina discussion. My name is Roy Nemer of Mundo Albiceleste.com. I am joined by Osvaldo Godoy of Mundo Albiceleste.com. We are here to discuss the Argentina national team, Argentina versus Colombia, South American World Cup qualifier coming up in less than 24 hours' time. We're going to talk about that game, the potential starting 11, the potential injuries, everything. And we're going to get to it. And as always, let us know down below where you're watching from. We tend to get from all around the world. First things first, Osvaldo, how are you? How is everything?
I'm doing well, Roy. I'm very excited for tomorrow's rematch of the Copa America final. I think it's gonna be an entertaining game. It's gonna be a very hard one. We're gonna talk about the conditions, the climate that is gonna be in Barranquilla. It's gonna be heavy. It's gonna be complicated for Argentina, but also for Colombia. But I'm excited. I'm also excited to see what lineup is Scaloni gonna put tomorrow.
Yeah, it's, whenever I think of Argentina versus Colombia, I think about, how difficult it is every single time. And I always go back to that 2014 World Cup qualifier, and we'll discuss it maybe a little bit later on. But that come from behind win, Messi scoring, Aguero scoring late on, Argentina getting the win. And for me, that was the turning point of those qualifiers under Alejandro Sabella. But that's for a little bit later on. Let's get to the chat. BC saying Colombia should have lost to Peru, and we'll talk about how Colombia is doing in the qualifiers. Hemlock Bar, hello, Hemlock Bar. Thank you for joining us. Rian and Rihanna, good morning to the both of you. Hey, good morning. Let us know where you're watching from. We're Monday evening here where we are. Let us know where you're watching from. As always, Corsinias from Akron, Ohio, in the United States of America. Thank you, everybody, for joining. So yeah, Argentina versus Colombia. Both Argentina got the 3 points versus Chile. A 3-0 win, a very impressive 3-0 win. Colombia, not so much. A 1-1 draw versus Peru, a very difficult draw for them. Argentina, potentially some injuries. We're going to talk all about that. Janet, good morning to you. Good afternoon to you as well, watching from Canada. Suraj from Dallas. Riyad, talking about how Argentina are kind of almost already qualified. But let's get to it. There's a lot of stuff, especially coming out of the match versus Chile. First things first, we could get some changes. We're set to get some changes. We see it in the graphic down below. Lisandro Martinez, Nicolas Otamendi, and Marcos Acuna. Three players competing for two spots, Osvaldo.
Yes, I would like to personally see Licha Martinez and Acuna, and maybe Otamendi go to the bench. I think Licha Martinez is one of the best center backs in the world, but again, he's a center back, and I would like to see him in that position. Acuna, and yeah, we've been having some issues in the left back position with Tagliafico injured. Acuna not really having minutes in Sevilla. Well, that's why now he's in River Plate in the Argentine soccer. But I still think that Acuna in that position could be good for us. Otamendi, on the other hand, I think overall all of our players had a good game against Chile. Maybe Otamendi, I remember that header from the Chile's attacker, which went to the post, and Otamendi was not that good in that specific play. So, in my opinion, I would like to see Licha Martinez and Acuna as starters.
All right, you're gonna go for Licha and Acuna. Let us know down below, everybody in the chat, what you would think. Who would be your starting left back, and who do you want to see start alongside Cuti Romero? I share the same sentiments as you, Osvaldo. I would go with Lisandro Martinez as a center back and Marcos Acuna as left back, similar to what we saw at the Copa America. Obviously, no Nicolas Tagliafico. One thing that I do want to keep an eye out on is Valentin Barco, to see if he does end up at least making the bench for Argentina this time, because he did not make the bench in the 3-0 win versus Chile. So him making the bench could be an opportunity for him, but we'll see, because he wasn't on the bench versus Chile.
Yeah, that's another debate to see which are the players that are not gonna make the bench. Last time I believe it was Barco, it was Scaraboni. Well, now it's Juan Musso is actually not. He did not travel to Colombia because he's injured and he's going back to Atletico de Madrid. So that's also to see if Castellanos goes to the bench. Some interesting players that can make the bench for Argentina.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. Let's get to the chat and let's see how or what everyone thinks. Excuse me. Let's take a look here. So Janet's saying Colombia is going to try to roughhouse us. I could see that. I could see that. BC saying 2-1 for Argentina. JCDT, excellent win against Chile without Messi and Di Maria. Peter Cheche, welcome Peter Cheche. Saying Lisandro with Romero, please, and Acuna to start. Hemlock Bar saying I'm emphasizing to substitute Otamendi because he did a major mistake in the last match, which could have been a goal. If it happened, our team would have lost. I'm guessing that's the opportunity in the first half, which hit the post that you had mentioned about Osvaldo. So no one really, I guess, here so far wants to see Otamendi in the starting 11. I have to say I don't think he starts. Just my gut feeling. I don't believe Nicolas Otamendi starts, but I guess you never know, especially Scaloni.
And of course, we're grateful to everything that Otamendi gave to this team. And we're just talking about maybe this particular game. We know that Lisandro Martinez and Cuti Romero are just one of the best, in my opinion, 5-10 center backs in the world. So again, we're talking about great defenders. We're not just saying that Otamendi is not really an important player for Argentina because he was throughout all these years. And something that we also have to talk later is because of the weather, of the condition of Barranquilla. I wouldn't be very surprised if Scaloni make a lot of substitutions, especially during the second half. We would be needing a lot of fresh legs, so It wouldn't surprise me to see one of those players enter in the second half.
Yeah, and that would be very, very strategic, very smart in terms of the substitutes in the second half. And Argentina certainly have the legs for it. We'll discuss it a little bit later on, but whether that's Nicolas Gonzalez or Garnacho or Soule or whoever it might be. The 6 players, by the way, and I'll get to the chat, the 6 players that missed out on the bench for Argentina versus Chile were Eki Fernandez, Valentin Barco, Valentin Carboni, Juliano Simeone, and Juan Musso. So those players missed out on, those 5 players, missed out on the bench for Argentina. Musso, as you mentioned, is not traveling with the team, is not presently in Colombia. So Eki Fernandez, Barco, Carboni, and Simeone were the players that missed out alongside Musso. Let's take a look at the chat. Dallas Fisel saying, I think he should. Maybe I'm guessing you're talking about Nicolas Otamendi. So thinking Otamendi should start. Acuna more physical, certainly. I think Acuna is certainly more physical, and Scaloni has options. Whether he wants to bring on Nicolas Gonzalez, maybe play more out wide, or Lisandro Martinez. So who knows how Scaloni is going to end up playing this. Hemlock, I have obviously respect for him, but he's getting older and performance is getting lower. And Dallas, yes, talking about Otamendi. In a line of 5. Okay. A back five. That's, again, certainly a possibility. Let's take a look here. Let's continue on as well. And let's get to this comment here. I just need a bit of clarification from Trafalgar Law saying, do you think this will be more telling of their truth strengths compared to the final? Because in the final, there's a different kind of pressure. I don't know if you're talking about Argentina or Colombia. Trafalgar, I'm unsure of the question, but thank you for the comment. Thanks for joining us. Now, we spoke about the left back. We spoke about the center back. Someone that we might get a change in midfield, and this might be a little bit more down to fitness or more than anything, but Alexis McAllister or Leandro Paredes, Osvaldo, what's going on here?
Yes, well, McAllister finished with a little bit of an injury against Chile. I wouldn't be very surprised if Scaloni tries to preserve McAllister and plays Leandro Paredes, more taking into consideration that Argentina is first in the standings, that the season with Liverpool just started for McAllister. But we'll see. We'll see how McAllister feels and Scaloni's decision. Either way, I think that especially Paredes against Colombia, we know how well he played in that final. And I think that also, depending on these 2 names, will be the position of Enzo Fernandez. Either if McAllister starts, he might be more as a defensive midfielder, and if Paredes starts, he might be a little bit more on top in the field.
Yes, certainly. That's another one, right, to take into consideration. It's what would happen with Enzo Fernandez, no matter who starts, whether it's Paredes or McAllister. I don't know. See, I thought McAllister played very well versus Chile, but this is something we spoke about after the match versus Chile. It's the fitness, right? We're talking about 4 or 5 days after. We're going to talk about the heat in Barranquilla as well. That's got to be something. That's got to be something that Scaloni has to take into consideration. Let me know. Let us know, guys, in the chat. Who would you go for? Would you go for Paredes or would you go for Alexis McAllister in midfield? Let us know down below in the chat. Varun, hello to you, Varun, watching us from Toronto, if I'm not mistaken. So welcome, Varun. Thanks for joining, my friend. As always, everybody, hit the like button. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and hit the notifications button to be the first person notified as soon as a new video or live discussion drops. Peter Chaiche saying there's nothing bad if we can accept that Lisandro should replace Otamendi permanently. Absolutely. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Not being disrespectful by any stretch of the imagination, I don't believe. Just kind of mentioning it there. Dallas saying 100%, agreeing with Peter. 100%, Ota's at the end of his career. BC talking about how Colombia will play for a 0-0 again. The only difference is if Colombia tries to play for a 0-0, I don't know how much to their advantage this will be. There's no penalty shootout if there is one. If there were to be
yes, but a tie. I mean, Colombia is third in the standings. A tie against a team like Argentina, it wouldn't be a very bad result. I mean, if you take into consideration that they tied against Peru, which are in the last position of the standings, then yeah, they might want to win at home. But if you think it just about a draw with the best team in America right now, it wouldn't be a bad result for them.
Correct. No, it wouldn't be a bad result, but if I were them, and it's obviously two separate things, two different things, but if I were them, having just lost the Copa America final, if I'm playing at home against that team, I want to win. I wouldn't be playing for a draw. That's how I would approach it. I'm not saying that's correct, but that's how I would think of it.
And even they just tied against Peru, and they didn't play a great match. The truth is that they had a great Copa America. They have the players, they have the quality, the collective game to really play a great game against Argentina, as they did in the first 90 minutes of the Copa America, of the final.
Absolutely, and it's never easy. By the way, like whenever Argentina plays Colombia, it's never easy for either team. Often Argentina have ended up getting the win, but it's always difficult. It's never by 2, 3, 4 goals. So it's not going to be easy. Andy, welcome, Andy, saying Paredes should start. Ivan saying might be smart to have both Enzo and Paredes. They could provide defense while playing a part in the offense. BC talking about Colombia, saying they're undefeated in the qualifiers. They seem to care a lot about that. Correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, but I believe Argentina went undefeated in 2002 in the qualifiers, and we kind of know what happened with that, or close to undefeated at least. But yeah, we know what happened when the World Cup happened.
I know, but it's true that they want to keep their undefeated record. Yeah. Argentina won 6 games but lost 1 in these qualifiers. It was against Uruguay. In the case of Colombia, they won 3 and they tied 4.
Yeah, but still, winning 3, drawing 4. Yes, you're undefeated, but you still drew 4 games. It's not like it's still a lot. Varun, it's not worth it to risk McAllister. Enzo on the other, go with Paredes. Enzo on the other hand, deep lying midfielder has been awful. Lo Celso won't be a bad shot either. Yeah, no, not a bad shout for Gio Lo Celso. I thought he played well versus Chile when he came on. Did pretty well. Winning is the only option, says Andy. And hello. Low win percentage, BC. Yes, for Colombia. No. Knock on wood. We're knocking on wood as we say this. Knocking on wood as we say this. Excuse me. Now, we just mentioned Lo Celso. We spoke about Paredes. We spoke about McAllister. Let's talk a little bit about Lo Celso, because we could be getting Lo Celso or Nicolas Gonzalez, depending on what Scaloni decides here, Osvaldo.
Yes, and depending on Nico Gonzalez's fitness, because he was the other player that got injured against Chile. Same as McAllister. They've been training, and they might get to the game, but they might not. For sure, both of them. Well, now we're talking about Nico Gonzalez. He won't get 100% to the match. And the possibility of his replacement will be Lo Celso, who plays in a different position. And we can see with Lo Celso more of a 4-4-2, and maybe him not so much to the left side of the field, but more playing in the middle where he likes to play.
Yeah, they're both good options. They're both good options. I'll ask the chat, who would you guys go with, Nico Gonzalez or Gio Lo Celso? And Osvaldo, I'll ask you, would you go more of a 4-4-2 and start Lo Celso, or would you go maybe 4-3-3 and start Nico Gonzalez in place of Lo Celso?
If Nico Gonzalez is fit, I would go with Nico Gonzalez. But I think that for this match, due to the high temperatures and everything, we're gonna discuss a little bit about even the grass and the stadium there in Barranquilla. We need our players to be 100% because it's gonna be a very physical game. Against Colombia, it's always a physical game, but in Barranquilla at that time of the day with that heat, we need our players to be 100%. So if Nico Gonzalez is not 100%, I'll go with Lo Celso.
Yeah, I that's fair. I would probably go with that. For those that are maybe more recent Argentina fans or maybe haven't really watched Colombia play much at home, after about 5 minutes in Barranquilla, you're going to see the players sweating. Their jerseys are going to be all wet. They're going to be sweating a lot. So the heat, and this is something we're going to talk about. It's going to be very, very high. The temperatures. It's an early kickoff, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. 4:30 p.m., which is, if I'm not mistaken, 5:30 p.m. in Buenos Aires. Let's get to the chat, see what everybody's saying here. Rihanna and Rihanna saying, I'm 100% confident whoever starts. Yes, the same. Barun, it's going to be physical, not risking Gonzalez. BC saying Gonzalez. Mostly just but we're going to talk about that. 89 J Stubbs, welcome to the chat. Thank you for joining us. And BC, why early? We'll talk all about that. Hemlock, saying in midfield, Lo Celso, De Paul, and Paredes should start. And in attack, it should be Garnacho, Dybala, and either Lautaro or Alvarez should start. Alvarez in the second half. It's no secret. And I believe I was redeemed in the Copa America final. It's no secret. I'm a big Nico Gonzalez fan. He's my boy, as we jokingly say. I thought he was tremendous when coming on in the final versus Colombia. I really think he was one of our best players on the pitch. Like you, Osvaldo, I think if he's fit, I would go with him. Absolutely. If not, go with Lo Celso. But there are some options as well up front, and that's something that let's get to that, because Julian Alvarez, Lautaro Martinez, they both started versus Chile. Are they going to start both once more versus Colombia, Osvaldo?
Yeah, well, some reports state that Julian and Lautaro will start again. I think they did a really good job against Chile. They complemented each other very well. Julian with that goal and Lautaro Martinez with those couple of technical, really good skills. And I think that Scaloni had some doubts before, especially before the game against Chile, and in the last couple of years, I would say, with Julian, was starting both Julian and Lautaro and play with a double striker. I think that against Chile, they demonstrated that they can play together, especially when you don't have players, a player like Messi and Di Maria, because Messi and Di Maria were probably the two most valuable players in Argentina in the last decade for sure. But when it comes to maybe defending, they didn't do it. So I'm talking about characteristics here. Maybe as Messi and Di Maria are not playing, you can put that double strikers, and it doesn't affect too much when it comes to defend and to put pressure.
Yeah. No, of course. They both, we spoke about this after the match versus Chile. They both played very, very well. This was one of Lautaro's best matches with the national team, despite not scoring. Really, despite not scoring. And Julian, what a goal with his weaker left foot. Starting them both, I'm for it. I'm for starting them both if they're both 100% fit to go because of the heat, because they both played and started versus Chile. Unless Scaloni's thinking of starting them both and then making substitutions at halftime, taking one of them out, changing the game a little bit, bring on, I don't know, Castellanos, or going with more width with Garnacho or Dybala as well. Dybala is an option, and we haven't even spoken about him yet. I don't know. It's going to depend on how Scaloni wants to approach the game, whether he wants that four-man midfield to maybe control the ball better, especially in the heat. You don't want the players constantly running. It's going to be an interesting one to see how he approaches it, for sure. Let's look at the chat, what everyone's talking about. 89 stubs. Talking about McAllister, we spoke a little bit about McAllister earlier. If he's fit to go, I'd go with him. Evan, Royman, he's your boy. He's quick, but I feel like he's a little selfish and doesn't make easy assists. Unpack. Look, I like him. I love his work rate. He's a very, very valuable player. I like him. I'm a fan of Nico Gonzalez, even though his finishing sometimes can be a little bit frustrating. Janet talking about Lautaro and Julian, both were great. That they were. BC talking about how they must learn to play together. Anyways, overall, we believe in Scaloni. Of course. This is another option, right? What would Dybala do? What could Dybala do from the start if you were to start him? Is he better as a starter? Is he better as a substitute? Would you start him, Osvaldo, and everybody in the chat? Would you start Dybala or just keep him on the bench and bring him on as a sub?
I love Dybala. I love how he plays. I would start him for sure. My ideal 3 in front would be maybe Dybala, Garnacho. I think someone mentioned it, and then maybe Lautaro, and then in the second half putting Julian in the place of Lautaro, because as we were saying, it's gonna be a super physical match, and we need our players to be 100%. I want Scaloni to make. He will probably make all the substitutions at some point in the second half, because we need fresh legs. So I would start Dybala, and if you ask me, I would also start Garnacho and try to play a 4-3-3.
Oh, all right. You go way more attack. I like that. We'll get into it, but let us know down below in the chat. I'm a fan of Garnacho. I would love to see him start. I wouldn't mind starting Garnacho and bringing Gonzalez on as a substitute, or starting Nico and bringing Garnacho on as a substitute. But Garnacho, bring him on with the speed that he has, and even Nico Gonzalez against the tired Colombian back line. I think that's solid. I think that's a good idea either way. Let's get to this. Ratjit talking about the heat. Barranquilla is very hot and humid compared to other South American cities. On top of that, intentionally, they have the early kickoff to make things even more difficult for us. Yeah, that's pretty much the idea for them. Iloa, welcome Iloa. Saying, I think they will play 4-4-2 with Lo Celso on the left, McAllister, Paredes, and Enzo in the middle, De Paul on the right. I think Acuna will come in for Otamendi. Janet, I like the Messi and Dybala conundrum. Yes. Varun, I want Dybala to start. Don't think he will. Sule and Eki might not get their debut. Tati may still come off the bench. Tati gives us maybe that presence. I'm not saying he's the tallest person. I believe he's about maybe 5'10 or 5'11, but he plays like a tall striker, if that makes sense. And against a Colombian team that's good in the air, it could be useful.
Especially knowing that if we start with 2 strikers, Castellanos would be the striker to come from the bench, because we really don't have another player to play as a 9 there as a substitution. We can play Dybala, but he likes to start a little bit more down in the field. So Castellanos could be the first option as a striker if Scaloni wants another striker.
I think so. I think so. We have Juliano Simeone, but still young, still very raw, very, very unexperienced. Sule, I don't see really getting a chance in this match, maybe in October. But yeah, Tati Castellanos might be our third striker right now. And if Lautaro and Julian both start, he could be that player coming off the bench for Argentina. Let's take a look what everyone else is saying. Mixed Memorabilia, welcome. I believe it's just about midnight in the UK for Mixed Memorabilia. Thank you for joining us. Ryan talking about Dybala, absolutely start him. Hemlock, Lautaro and Alvarez both were superb, but in the sense of opponent, we should pick one. All right, let's see. Let's Andy start. I'm trying to see I see a spider. I see a jewel. So we're talking about Alvarez and we're talking about Dybala. The first one I can't see, is that a toro? That's El Toro, right?
Yeah, that's the bull.
Lautaro?
Yeah, El Toro.
That's the bull. That's Lautaro. Lautaro. I like that, Andy. I like that. It just took me a couple of seconds to see the first one on my end. Evan, start Dybala. He scored in garbage time against Chile with 10 minutes. Imagine what he can do with 45 minutes. Peter says, I think Dybala should be honored with a start at the absence of Messi. He deserves it. Iloa, Tatu reminds me of Lautaro. And Mixed Memorabilia saying, I was very impressed with Scaloni, how he played 3 in the back line and packed the midfield with 5, yet again showing another different stance and approach to any game. This is character, and this is character of a great team. Yes, spot on, spot on. There's been a lot of talk. Moving on just a little bit. Moving on to the pitch itself, the heat, the early kickoff. Whenever Argentina plays Colombia in the last couple of qualifiers, it tends to be an earlier kickoff. The weather-wise, this is gonna be pretty much the same, if not hotter, than the Copa America final in Miami.
Yes, it is expected to be 31 degrees Celsius during the game. There's a 80% chance of rain, according to what I read during the game, and the humidity will be between 70 and 75%. So it's gonna be a humid and very hot atmosphere, you know.
It's gonna be difficult, and that's why, going back to what you mentioned, Osvaldo, that's why I think Scaloni is gonna use his substitutions, and he's gonna use all of them. I don't think he's gonna wait as late as he did, like he did versus Chile. I think versus Colombia, he's gonna use them pretty, intelligently, so to speak, very strategic.
And I always I understand this strategy from Colombia, but at the same time, I think that most of Colombian players don't play in the Colombian league anymore. I guess they grew up playing that environment in that heat, so they're kind of used to it. But the truth is not that they play there every weekend for the last couple of years.
No, and that's it, and it's similar to when, and maybe even more so, it's similar to when, Argentina plays in La Paz, in Bolivia, right, at altitude. Bolivia plays at altitude. They could choose not to, but obviously they played, and to their advantage, credit to them, nothing wrong with that. But some of the Bolivian players, for example, they don't all play in Bolivia or in Quito for Ecuador, right? A lot of their players play in Europe. Colombia, a lot of their players play in Europe. So it's not like they're, as you said, 100% playing in Barranquilla in that heat every single weekend. So it's hurting them a little bit, but I won't say no if it hurts them.
Yeah.
Taking a look, Iloa saying up front three of Garnacho, Alvarez, or Lautaro, and then Dybala fits so well. When Dybala cuts inside, De Paul and Molina can overload on the right. We have so many options. I do like that as well. And a little question as well. I suppose we didn't really talk about this. We'll ask everybody. That right back position. I mean, do you go with Molina? Do you go with Montiel? Do you see Molina playing the full 90 minutes in Barranquilla? Who would you start, Osvaldo?
If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Roy. Who started in the final of the Copa America? Was it Montiel?
Montiel started.
Montiel, yeah. Scaloni chose Montiel because he thought that in that side, Luis Diaz attacks for Colombia. I wouldn't be very surprised if Montiel starts, even though some reports say that Molina would start. In my opinion, I think that I would start Montiel, more taking into consideration how it was the final of the Copa America, and if it was something that worked. And Montiel might be a player that fights a little bit more in defense and can be more physical. So maybe I would start Montiel.
You would start Montiel. I'm inclined to start Montiel. I thought Molina was decent. I thought he did well versus Chile. I wouldn't be angry or sad if Molina starts at all versus Colombia. But Montiel, whenever he plays in South America, especially when it's a big game, he excels. He does very, very well, whether it's against Brazil, whether it's against Colombia. He does very well. He has that tenaciousness in him, that never say die attitude. And I wouldn't be angry. I would not be disappointed at all if Montiel were to start ahead of Molina. And looking at the chat, I mean, North Village saying Montiel without a doubt. Ratjit, Montiel for such a physical match is perfect. He should start tomorrow. Iloa saying, I think Molina starts. He was great versus Chile. If he cannot keep up with Diaz, then I'd sub Montiel. That's the other thing. I mean, Luis Diaz. Colombia is a very good team. And Montiel did very well in the final against them. So Scaloni has options. Scaloni certainly has options. Asif Mahmoud, welcome, Asif. Love it when you join us. Asif's asking, are we taking too many players in these qualifiers, given how many people are not going to get any minutes in this round of qualifiers? I don't think so. They still get to train with the national team, right? And that's still experience, Osvaldo, I would think.
No, yeah, I agree. I think it's a good first couple of experiences for many of these players, like Juliano Simeone, Matias Olejo. We expected them not to really play these matches. But at the same time, at some point, they have to start training with these players that most of them are their idols, and it's hard for them to to see them as a teammates instead of idols. So those couple of training sessions are good for them to start getting used to that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. They have to slowly bring them into the team, whether it's training or being on the bench and not playing. It takes a while. Let's not forget there are 2 more World Cup qualifying matches in October and 2 more in November. So building that experience from now for a lot of these young players can only be a good thing. Can only be a good thing. Welcome, Edwin. Edwin, hello from the Fiji Islands. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Mix Morabilia is saying Colombia will have a much dangerous attack and they will be hungry, so go with Montiel. North Village. Molina, for some reason, looks scared to me, especially against technically good opponents. I think that's a little bit unfair. I mean, Molina did pretty well in the World Cup final for being fair to him, for being honest. Let's see. Mix Memorabilia. At this time, any player who trains with Argentina will get a sprinkle of gold. Yes, they will. Yes, they will. And excellent points as well, Janet. If you're a young player, you're a new player, you get that experience and you get to understand Scaloni's expectations and his tactics as well. Spot on. I like that.
Yes, I still understand the point that we have a lot of great players that sometimes maybe they're not even having a couple of minutes, and we would like to see them all. But at the same time, these are not friendlies. Yes, we are already qualified, you would say, to the World Cup, but we're still trying to aim to be the first one in the standings and to try to continue competing. And these are not friendlies, so I understand Scaloni repeating most of the times the same team and just giving a couple of players some minutes, or maybe some even not even making the bench, because at the end of the day you have to put the best starting 11 at this moment, and then maybe he will have some friendlies to try out different players that maybe will make their debut in Argentina.
1,000%, 1,000%. And you're talking about this is not a friendly match, and there aren't really any friendly matches. This brings us to our next point. Getting away a little bit from the South American World Cup qualifiers, this brings us to the Finalissima, because the Finalissima, Argentina versus Spain, initially looked like it was going to be played in 2025 next year. Scaloni's come out and said, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. And now possibly in March 2026, Osvaldo?
Yeah, the year of the World Cup. That seemed to be the year where the Finalissima is going to be played, because in 2025 there's some scheduling conflict, as you were saying, that Scaloni said. I think that in June, that was more or less or July, when it was supposed to be played. I think it's gonna be the first edition of the Club World Cup
Yes.
that is gonna happen in the US. That's a different chapter. I'm very excited about that, honestly, because we're gonna have teams like Boca, like River playing against Real Madrid, Barcelona. So it's gonna be very interesting. But due to that, and due to many great players playing that, uh, there's really not a big possibility of this Finalissima to be played next year, and it would be more close to in 2026.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. And if we remember, I mean, this would be played March, then you have April, May, the World Cup starts in June. So just about 2 to 3 months prior to the start of the World Cup. The 2022 Finalissima, the one that Argentina won versus Italy, that one was played in June with the World Cup starting in November. So already it looks like it will be played in the same year. And this one just 2 months before. No space at all, no time for any friendly matches. And we're looking at the chat. BC talking about they need to play some European friendlies before the World Cup. Don't remember the last one. The last one that I could remember, and I want to say, was it Slovenia in right after the Finalissima in June 2022? That was probably the one where Messi scored 5 goals.
Estonia.
Excuse me, Estonia.
Yeah,
Estonia, the one where Messi scored 5 goals.
Yes.
That's probably the last European friendly match that I could think of that Argentina has played against. Granted, they've played against European teams since, right? Finalissima, right before that was the Finalissima versus Italy. France in the World Cup, Netherlands in the World Cup, Poland in the World Cup. But yeah, there's no time. Absolutely no
Yeah.
time whatsoever.
Yeah, no, and with Europe now playing their Nations League and all these
Exactly.
tournaments within Europe, they're kind of apart from any friendly that could be organized with South American teams. I see it as something positive, honestly, to play such an important game for us and for Spain a couple of months before the World Cup, because as we were saying, other than that, we really don't play against European teams at all, and it's gonna be a good match, a good um,
A good test.
yeah, a good test before the World Cup.
A good test. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned it, and Asif mentioned it here in the comments as well. No time. European teams play the Nations League, which, for being honest, it's a glorified friendly tournament. For being honest, it's something they, Anyways, BT cowardly England backed out of one that they did. Samari talking about the front three, going with Garnacho, Lautaro, and Dybala. Varun, last time we played Finalissima the same year as the World Cup, we won both. I'll take it as a good omen. I like that. Edwin showing some love to Cuti Romero. Why people don't appreciate Cuti? For me, he's the most consistent player for Argentina, along with Dibu. I think Argentina fans do, and Tottenham Hotspur fans do. I don't think other fans do. I don't know for whatever different reason, but not so much. Not so much. BC, England played Bosnia, friendly, Belgium, Iceland. Yeah. Roy getting. I mean, Estonia, Slovenia, England, they're all the same when it comes to national teams. Last one, this was Spain 6-0. I don't remember this one. Was it the one in 2010? And the one that was played in 2010, but I don't believe it was 6-0.
That was 4-1, I think.
4-1 or 5-1, yeah, something like that. And at the Monumental.
Yeah, that's more like a tennis score. Maybe what happened in the Davis Cup or something.
Yeah. Yeah, the US Cup is going on right now, as obviously, as you know, Osvaldo, or what's going on. BC, Messi has played in more World Cup finals than England has in its entire history. I like that. Mixed memorabilia, Romero is the best in the world in his position. North Village talking about how they want to see, Argentina versus Germany. That would be a banger. And Samaria, this was before the 2018 World Cup. I remember this one. Yeah. But I don't believe it was 5-0 or 6-0.
No, it was. I think it was 6-1.
6-1 was it? Was it that
bad?
I tried blocking out that era completely. I remember we beat Italy though at the Etihad, Manchester City Stadium.
In that same match day, like it was.
I believe it was that same. Yeah, I believe it was that same. I believe so.
Yeah, and it was like 2-0, right? I can see it. Let me see.
2-0. I think Lo Celso and Lanzini scored. I think Lo Celso scored Lanzini. I can't remember. Back in BC.
Yeah, I think. Did we win first against Italy and then lost 6-1 against Spain?
I believe so, yeah. I want to say Lo Celso scored in that one, and I have Paredes, Lo Celso, Paredes, or Lanzini. I can't remember. Something like that. Let's find it, everybody. We're live. We are absolutely live. Otamendi was our goal scorer. Wow. Let's do this. Let's try and find what the score was. Oh, Banega and Lanzini. Excuse me, Ever Banega and Lanzini, the two goal scorers. There you go.
Yeah. In the minutes 75 and 85.
Yeah. To answer this one, I think really quickly, I'd go maybe Bolivia, because that was the qualifier. But one was a friendly match, one was a qualifier at altitude. It's tough. Let's move on. Let's not talk too much about those. Varun, all Argentina players. Sorry, go ahead, Osvaldo.
No, someone mentioned something about Cuti Romero, and today there were some reports saying how he was approached by three different big clubs in Europe, one of them being Real Madrid, and Tottenham said that they're not, they didn't even hear the offers because they're willing to negotiate with Cuti Romero starting the next year when he will only have 2 years remaining in his contract. But a lot of great teams trying to get Cuti Romero, which, at least in my opinion, is top 3 of the best center backs in the world.
Absolutely. He has 2 years left, if I'm not mistaken, in his contract. If he does leave, I could see him leave at the end of this season. That way Tottenham gets some money out of him and they don't let him walk away for free. If he does end up leaving, if they don't end up re-signing him to keep him. But yeah, Madrid, I believe Manchester United were another one, and I can't remember the third. But there were 3 teams. Samar, Lanzini, yeah. I'm going to move on from those 6-1. I'm going to move on from those results. One final thing, I suppose, to look at, and then we could begin closing things up. I'm going to share this. Let's just take a look really, really quickly here. There you go. So the last results in the last match day, Bolivia, Venezuela 4-0. Argentina, obviously 3-0 versus Chile. Uruguay and Paraguay drew 0-0. Brazil, luckily, I would say, versus Ecuador 1-0, and Peru and Colombia tying 1-1. And for this one, this is going to be a big one. Colombia hosts Argentina, Chile, Bolivia, Ecuador, Peru, Venezuela, Uruguay, and Paraguay, Brazil. In my opinion, after this, Paraguay, Brazil is probably the match to watch, in my opinion. I don't know what everybody thinks. What do you think, Osvaldo?
Venezuela, Uruguay is a good one too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good one too. I want to ask you because we know that in this World Cup qualifiers now 6.5 teams qualified to the World Cup. One of them going to play that game against this other team in another continent. But my question is, which 3 teams do you think are not gonna qualify to the World Cup?
Oh my gosh. I think Bolivia. I don't believe Bolivia qualifies unless Peru completely turn it around. I don't believe they qualify, and then it's either going to be Paraguay or Chile. I think what we see now. I think Venezuela, surprisingly, I think they could ride the momentum. I think they continue to grow and continue to do well. I could see them maybe making the final playoff spot, but I can see Chile struggling. For me, Bolivia, Chile, Peru, probably those 3 end up missing out. I don't know. It's going to come down to the wire because, a lot of it's going to depend on how well, believe it or not, how well Brazil plays. How much they're able to, how many points they're able to take away from Peru, from Chile, from Bolivia, from Paraguay. But for me, it's going to be those 3. I don't know about you, Osvaldo, but I think what we see here might be the final ranking, actually.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Chile might not make it. I think that even though Paraguay is not a great team, I think they have good players like Enciso, Almiron, and some other good players. Yeah, Venezuela with Fernando Batista could qualify to a World Cup for the first time in their lives. So it's interesting to also see those last spots of the South American qualifiers.
Yeah, it's almost night and day. I mean, when you look at the qualifiers, especially from a couple of years ago, how solid Paraguay was playing initially. Peru, Chile, since they won the Copa America, they've been so downhill. They haven't qualified for a single World Cup. So it's interesting to see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see here what happens. We're about halfway through, or maybe a little bit less than halfway through the South American World Cup qualifiers. But I think kind of what we see here might be the final rankings. Now, let's not forget, it's mentioned here, Ecuador were deducted 3 points for the use of false birth documents for Biron Castillo. So they would even be on 11 points, technically. Ecuador would be on 11 points to be in 4th ahead of Brazil. So it's tough. They're a good team.
I'm just taking a look. 7 out of the 8 coaches are Argentinian.
Argentinians.
We're talking about Fernando Batista in Venezuela, Scaloni in Argentina, Ricardo Gareca in Chile, Alfaro now in Paraguay, Bielsa in Uruguay, in Ecuador is Sebastián Becasese, and in Colombia is Néstor Lorenzo. 7 out of the 10.
We could get 7 Argentine managers in the World Cup qualifying. All that's missing is Brazil. They want one. Let's take a look at the chat. But that is some statistic. Asif saying, I'd like to see Venezuela to qualify once in my lifetime. BC, Venezuela doesn't have as bad a record versus Paraguay as you would think, but their quality is poor. I think they'd embarrass the continent in the World Cup, like when they lost to Canada at the Copa America. Rajit, Paraguay will make it now that they have Gustavo Alfaro as their coach. Scoring is historically low, under 2 goals per match. This qualifier, this is actually very low. And Hasnat saying Brazil should hire Sampaoli if they want to get back to their best. I'm all for it. They could take him, I guess. They could take him. But on that note, I mean, final World Cup qualifiers of the month of September, then 2 more in October. Argentina versus Colombia. Osvaldo, final thoughts before we close things up here.
I'm excited for this rematch against Colombia. I imagine it to be a very tough game. Maybe even with some fights between the players, between Argentinians and Colombians, which is always good to see in the qualifiers. Of course, we don't want everyone like just punching each other, but we like that heat. That's what South American qualifiers are about. Hopefully, none of them get any sanctions. That for sure. But I'm very excited to see the match tomorrow. All the substitutions, as I was saying, I think that Scaloni is going to make all the substitutions, so I expect to see many players playing for Argentina, and that's always good. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm expecting exactly what you said. I'm expecting a physical match. I'm content. I'm happy going into this. One of the reasons being that Argentina just beat them in the Copa America final. Had we lost that final going into this one, I would really want to absolutely destroy them and win. But very, very happy we won when it mattered. But no, I think I'm confident as well. I think Argentina will do well. Same as you, I'm expecting a physical match. I think Scaloni will make use of the substitutions. I think he's going to use every single one of his substitutes as much as he can. I'm very, very... I think the players are up for it. I think it's going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting match. Asif, thank you. Thank you, Asif, so much for the support and love. Really, very much appreciated. Asif saying, Messi has never played England in his 20-year career.
Wow.
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that the day of the Euro final and the Copa America final. It was on the same day. I thought, finally, we could get Messi playing England. It didn't happen.
Yeah, they lost again.
Yeah, they lost. I mean, look, I'm not disappointed. I'm not angry that they lost. Don't get me wrong, by any stretch. And Asif saying again, Asif, thank you, my friend. Asif saying I'd be happy with a draw, as would I. But look, I'd be happy with the win. I would not be disappointed with a draw. Let's put it that way.
Yes,
be happy with the win, not disappointed with a draw. But I would still like to see Messi play England. Yes, for what it's worth. Yes, I would like to see that. BC England last played Argentina in 2005. That one I believe was in Geneva, in Switzerland, if I'm not mistaken. 3-2. Peckerman took Riquelme out, and it was, anyways. But it was a good game. On that note, a big thank you, Janet. Thank you to you as well. Thanks for joining us. Mix Morbilia saying it could be a draw. BC saying how England is afraid of Argentina and the South American teams would smash England. On that note, a big thank you, everybody, for joining us. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notifications button to be the first people notified as soon as the new video drops. My name is Roy Nemer of MundoAlbiceleste.com, joined by Osvaldo Godoy of MundoAlbiceleste.com. And thank you, everybody, for watching once more. We're going to be live afterwards, after the match, Argentina versus Colombia. After that, for the live discussion. So make sure to join us. We are going to be live here on YouTube, on Facebook, on X, everywhere. So make sure to join. On that note, once more, a big thank you to everybody, and take care. Until next time. Bye, everybody.